Picture the scene. It's a sunny day in June 2009, and a man arrives in the town of Sligo on the west coast of Ireland. He disembarks from a bus that has just arrived from Derry, Northern Ireland, and makes his way to the Sligo City Hotel on Quay Street, where he checks in under the name Peter Bergman. He booked for 3 nights at the hotel and paid in cash. But who was this mysterious man, and what is he doing in Sligo? That's something we've been trying to figure out for a long time. Despite extensive efforts by law enforcement and the public to identify him, the true identity and motives of Peter Bergman remain shrouded in mystery. The name he used and the address he gave at the hotel were false. The place he indicated does not exist. It's almost like he didn't want anyone to know who he was. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what we do know. According to CCTV footage from the Sligo City Hotel, Bergman was of medium build, with gray hair and brown eyes, and was estimated to be in his 60s. He was a man of few words, speaking only when necessary to interact with hotel staff, and spent much of his time alone in his room. Over the course of the next few days, Bergman was seen on CCTV cameras around Sligo, visiting various shops and purchasing new clothing, including a brown suit, a white shirt, and black shoes. He also bought black bin liners, which he was seen filling with his personal belongings, including his mobile phone and SIM card, clothing, and toiletries. Staff at the hotel noticed that the man would leave the hotel every morning with a purple bag in hand, and when he returned, the purple bag would be gone. It's natural to assume that maybe he was disposing of something in the bag. Perhaps things that could have identified him. What could he be trying to hide? The police searched through dumpsters and around the area of the hotel. Unfortunately, they were never able to locate the items that Peter Bergman may have thrown away. It's believed that Peter Bergman knew the location of where the security cameras, and actively avoided them when throwing his personal belongings away. Security footage captured him walking into a post office, and the investigators found out that the man had purchased 8 stamps and airmail stickers. There are also sightings of him sending out letters. It would be tremendously helpful if we could establish where those letters ended up and who the man intended to receive the letters. It would solve the mystery of this man's identity. Unfortunately, by the time the police caught up to this lead, the letters had already been taken and delivered. This does tell us something. It tells us that Peter Bergman may have family and friends out there who he wanted to contact before he took the last steps of his life. Someone out there may know who Peter Bergman was, and they chose not to come forward. This case has been all over the internet. It would be unlikely that they didn't know the police were looking for anyone who could reveal who Peter Bergman was. There was an incident between Peter Bergman and the staff. A cleaning girl couldn't get into his room. So, the manager came to Peter Bergman's room. She knocked and waited for a reply, but there was none. Then, she used a master key to enter his room only to realize he was in there. She explained that the man froze and looked at her. She said, he didn't look startled. Instead, it almost seemed like he was relieved it was her and not someone else. Was he expecting someone else? She further stated that he looked like he was caught doing something he shouldn't have. Peter Bergman was just standing there, in the doorway. The cleaning girl and the manager both called out to him, but for some reason, he didn't reply. Why didn't he? Was there a particular reason? Or maybe he just wanted to be left alone. On June 14th, 2009, at around 11 a.m., he waved a taxi down and asked where is a quiet beach where he could go for a swim. The taxi drove him to Ross's Point a few minutes away, and when he got there, he seemed to like what he saw. He paid for the taxi and got out of the car. On the morning of June 15th, 2009, the man asked the receptionist if he could stay for an extra hour, as he had some errands to run. His request was granted, and he went out the door with another purple bag in hand. Police believe that it's the same purple bag that kept showing up on the security cameras. And when he returned each time, he just folded it in his pocket. This trip of his was likely to dispose more of his personal belongings. Peter Bergman left the hotel for the last time at around 1 p.m. He left with a laptop bag, a purple bag, and a black bag. He was captured on camera at various points along the route between the hotel and the bus terminal. Somewhere along this route, he had disposed of the black bag. When he arrived at the bus terminal, there was only a laptop bag and the purple bag in his hand. From there, he went to a coffee shop inside the bus terminal. He ordered a sandwich and a cup of coffee. At the coffee shop, he was captured on camera taking out a piece of paper and proceeding to write something down on there before tearing it up. The security camera was too grainy to pick up any writing on the paper. Then, he bought a single ticket to Ross's Point. Witnesses saw him pacing back and forth on the beach. He stood out like a sore thumb. Everyone else was wearing proper beach clothes, and there he was wearing a suit, looking quite formal. He didn't talk to anyone or interact with anyone. He just walked along the beach deep in his own thoughts. Some of the beachgoers say hello to him, but he didn't say anything back. He just nodded politely and continued walking with his hands behind his back. There were a dozen sightings of Peter Bergman that day on the beach. Many of those people remembered him because of how strange he was behaving. One woman pointed him out to a friend and said, "Look at that strange man." Little did she know, she was witnessing the last moment of a stranger's life. On June 16, 2009, a man who frequented the beach every day stumbled upon a mannequin on the beach at Ross's Point. As he got closer, he realized that it wasn't a mannequin, it was a person. And he looked like he had drowned. The man and his son said a prayer before calling the authority. An investigation revealed that the man had removed all the labels from his clothes. Something that certainly not everyone would do, but a common practice among people who wanted to hide their identities, as the tags would help track down where the clothes were purchased, and subsequently who may have purchased them. Whoever this man was, he had done a lot of thorough planning before arriving on Ross's Point that day. Further examination of his body revealed that he had advanced stage prostate cancer and a tumor in his bone. There was also evidence that the man suffered heart attacks several times. It may not be strikingly obvious on the outside when we look at the security camera footage, but the man was not in good health. He was very sick. A chemical test found that there was no evidence of any common painkiller drugs in his body, which was very unusual for someone with so many medical problems. He would have been in a lot of pain in his last days. His DNA and fingerprints were collected, but did not match any person in the system. This indicates that this man did not commit any crime that would have left his data in the system. There has also not been any match to anyone that may have been related to Peter Bergman in the system, meaning his relatives did not commit any crimes that could have required them to get registered in the DNA identification program. Despite being found by the sea, Peter Bergman had not died by drowning. It's possible that he had a heart attack when he had been in the cold water for too long, and that may be how he died. Police believe that the man had hoped that his body would be washed out to the sea, but of course, that wasn't what happened. Some theorize that Peter Bergman was a spy, as he was quite wary of his surroundings, and displayed skills that a spy would be trained well at. This includes his ability to evade security cameras when he wanted to, or the idea to cut off tags to avoid being identified through there. However, this theory has no concrete evidence to support it. The coroner concluded that based on the stages of his illness, he likely had only 2 weeks before the illness claimed him. The average life expectancy was 78 years in 2009, and the man looked like he was in his 60s. A bit young to be facing imminent death at that age. Instead of a spy or a Secret Service agent, perhaps, Peter Bergman was just a common man, who didn't want to wait around for his diseases to claim him. Maybe he wanted things to end on his own terms. It's possible that he didn't want anyone to see him at the last stages of his life, because he didn't want his loved ones to remember him like that. It's also possible that he was being treated at a hospital prior to arriving at Sligo. Had he left the facility without notifying anyone? Perhaps he was seen looking around nervously and refused to answer when someone knocked on his door, because he anticipated that someone from the hospital would be looking for him. We don't know, but that's a possibility. Maybe we should leave Peter Bergman alone. He went through such great lengths to conceal his identity. Had he known that his death would be pondered over by so many people over the internet, more than a decade later, maybe he would have taken another way out. Whoever received his letters knew who he was, and they had decided to respect his wishes by keeping his identity a mystery. This will be the first and only time you hear me say something like this on this channel. But let's hope this case remains an unsolved mystery for the rest of time. Thank you for watching until the end.